Hey listeners, thank you for stopping by. I hope you will enjoy this episode of yet another historical story. If you would like to support my work, please check out the description below. I got a quite interesting story to tell you. One in fact brings the whole country together. It's 1st of August 1944 in the occupied capital city of Poland, Warsaw. As the Soviets advance, Germans fall back from their positions. There is a new hope for the Polish underground state of resistance as the Soviets drew close to the Warsaw, pushing back the Germans. The resistance members marked graffiti on walls and pavements, Polska walcząca, in which in English means Poland fights, which symbolizes fighting against the aggressor and occupier. The plans for Uprising to liberate Warsaw from the cruel hands of German occupation and restore the freedom back in its place once again has been carefully prepared. Godzina W, the W plan hour, liberating Warsaw is minutes away from beginning, with 40,000 underground resistance fighters of Armia Krajowa, known as Home Army, men, women and children in civilian clothes with a red white armbands await the final order. 5 p.m. arrives. The code signal Tempest is given out. The first wave attack of explosion and rifle fire starts at the Germans. Troops are surprised by the attacks. Powstanie Warszawskie, the Warsaw Uprising, begins. The attack is successful for the Polish resistance, with many streets of Warsaw and the main post office building liberated from the Germans. Polish national flags fly since the German invasion in 1939, signaling that the Poland is not yet lost. The German occupiers rally, that hold their ground despite the surprise attack and fight back against the resistance. Heavy reinforcements arrive: troops, tanks, artillery and air force. On the banks of Vistula River, the Soviets' advance is ordered to halt by Stalin. From across the water, they observe the brutal fight of the resistance against the Germans. They have arrived with war-hardened soldiers, guns. They have driven out the Nazis out of Russia in a grinding war of attrition. Are the Soviet forces here to help the Polish neighbors? No. Stalin planned this halt advance to weaken the Polish resistance to exhaustion. The communist leader Joseph Stalin calls the resistance fighters criminals as they fight defending their land from the Germans. His plan after the war is to place communism onto Poland without much resistance. Polish resistance gets a new terrific news that the Soviets pushback against the Germans away is placed at its halt. Final blow for the Polish Home Army comes in a wave of supply drop have been cut off, as Stalin refused Allied airplanes to refuel on Soviet airfields. This limits the Allies fully to fly the distance that is needed to reach and drop this desperately needed supplies. Polish resistance command realized that the hope for the Soviet advance will not happen at all, and to make matters worse, Allied forces' supply drops will no longer arrive to aid their efforts. The situation is dire. This gives time for the Germans to regroup and focus crushing the resistance with their manpower. The resistance days numbered, no supplies or manpower. How long will they stand strong? There's a new order given out. Directly comes from the Führer himself. Hitler wants for the Warsaw to be razed to the ground. The SS leader Heinrich Himmler carries out the order from the Führer. The German forces without hesitation began the order by air and land. Within the rumble, fight for the freedom carries out with the city reduced to nothing but a death maze, traps and death. This outcome results in the resistance are forced to use the sewage systems to travel more safely between districts to carry reinforcements and needed supplies. Above the ground, the German drag Polish civilians for mass executions will come to be known as Voluta massacre. For each German dead, 1,000 of civilians are killed in executions, resulting in a staggering number of the massacre to be around between 40,000 to 50,000 of Polish population wiped out. In the response to this, resistance spirit is not broken, and people stay loyal to continue fighting despite the harsh course they have to face. The children are tasked to pass on mail through the rumble of the city to the resistance lines. It is a very dangerous role. The scout postal service sneaking around the German patrols. Between life and death, but their bravery proved to be stronger. After 2 months and 4 days, there are battles all over Warsaw, but there's an exhaustion setting in. The Polish resistance has reached its limits of its supplies, in both food and ammunition for its efforts. The resistance is negotiating conditional offer to the Germans with POW rights for all resistance fighter soldiers. This act of conditional surrender acts as a stop further escalations of Voluta massacre. The resistance command faces a difficult decision. Does it give out the final order to stop fighting and surrender to the Germans? When finally all efforts are stopped and both sides agree on unconditional surrender, the end of brutal fighting has come to its end. On the outskirts of Warsaw, the Soviets reorganized their advance, liberating ashes of what's left after the brutal fighting ended. In the very end of this brutal sacrifice story, the Powstanie Warszawskie could rise up to its truth and reveal to the world what kind of war that the Warsaw was up against. In the modern times, Warsaw celebrates the Warsaw Uprising and the fallen with several events of remembrance on the day of 1st August every year at 5 p.m. Sirens are heard all over the Warsaw, stopping everything in motion, to give 1 minute of silence to honor those who have fought and sacrificed their lives. Welcome back, listeners. Thank you for staying to the end. Subscribe to my Spotify channel and other accounts linked in the description. Your support is very appreciated, and see you next time.